All right.
That never gets old. I'm telling you.
It doesn't. I know it really doesn't. I'm a big fan of that stuff.
I could listen to that all day.
I remember I originally wanted the Dvorak, the bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think it works so much better, no?
Yeah, it's also from an opera, so that kind of makes it a little bit better.
It's just more fun. I don't know. I feel
that's true.
It feels like the Lone Ranger, you know? It's like.
The other one's a little too menacing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, if we were doing like a Star Wars show, it'd be perfect. But
we're not. How are you, Steven?
I'm all right. How are you? No, big question is, how are you?
Well, secret's out. I had 102.1 degree fever last night, which kind of disappeared more or less. I mean, I had it all day yesterday, and it kind of disappeared. But I went to Midtown to get a rapid COVID test just in case. And I waited in line for 2 hours. I think that was more stressful than actually like having the fever. And then they put like the swab, and it wasn't even like the one that I was really. Have you ever gotten a flu test, by the way?
A flu test or I had a
flu test.
Coronavirus test. No, not a flu test.
You had a COVID test though?
Oh yeah.
Was it the blood test? What did you have?
I had both. I went in. I didn't have any symptoms. I went in because I was thinking if I had antibodies.
That's a blood test then.
But I did both. I went in and they wanted to give me both. I don't know why, because they had them and they were free, I guess. So they did the swab, the nasal swab, and they did the blood test.
But was the nasal swab like that all the way, or was it just in the front?
Yeah, it was kind of a little far back, but it wasn't. I mean, look, from coming from people that get their throat and their sinuses.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So, I mean, it was not really invasive. The lady's like, "Oh, there it is." It's like, "Oh, you don't have to go back any further." She's like, "No, that's it." So
anyway, well, this one was like nothing. It was like, and then she was done. He was done. Even he was wearing this crazy mask because I guess he can't walk in there, with like a bandana.
Right.
So he had one of those crazy masks that looked like he was, ready to either, work with tear gas or a pandemic. And then I waited outside and breaking, I don't have COVID. I'm the only schmuck who gets the flu shot every year and then manages to still get a small flu. So
what would you do if you went into surgery for something and the doctor came in wearing a bandana instead of a mask? Would you let him go for the surgery, or would you leave?
Yeah, or he came in like wearing one of those, like it's like you see those advertised on Facebook, the cloth ones that just has like a Yankees logo on the front.
Yeah, no lie. I go get my haircut the other day, and some guy is passed out, overdosed on the street, and right near my haircut. Anyway, long story short, the EMT comes to pick him up. Guy doesn't have a mask on or anything, obviously, but who knows what happened. The EMT comes and he's wearing his mask below his nose.
As an EMT?
He's an EMT. He's an EMT, and he's wearing his mask so his nose is completely open. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the point? You should know better. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to call 911 and have that guy arrive, because if he doesn't know how to wear a mask, God knows what he knows how to. It's blew my mind. It just blew my mind.
It reminds me when I was, because most of my interaction right now, unfortunately, is, and by the way, I dodged a bullet because we were supposed to hang out over the weekend. Like, I don't feel so good. So I'm glad I didn't in that respect. But
you missed a good time then. So you came over because you thought you didn't have COVID. Now you don't have COVID. You're like, damn, I could have still gone.
Yeah, well, then you just would have had a fever without COVID. Great. All right. So I have a buddy on my Facebook feed. That's where so much of my interaction is. And this guy, he's a really good guy. I went to high school with him, and happy birthday, William! Happy birthday, William! he every day, and I'm sure you know many people like this. Every day, this guy comes on Facebook, and he shares like 6 articles, 6 opinion pieces, and he's like, "Will anyone defend this?" He's just like yelling, like in caps lock. He's like, "Is there a supporter of X politician who will defend this?" Like really. And I'm just like, every day he does this, and of course, eventually someone takes the bait, and and they spar, and he does this like 5-6 times a day at least, right? For months he does this every day. Then last week he's like, "I just can't take this negativity on Facebook. I'm taking a break." I'm like, I wonder why you have negativity when you basically go on Facebook and just go,
yeah, right.
to everyone you see. It's just so embarrassing. But anyway, unfortunately, this week I will not be partaking in our usual segment of This Week in Alcohol. How about you, Stephen? You had a new rum, no?
I do have a new rum, but I didn't open it. I was going to open it with you, but you screwed that one up. Yeah, I'm not. I'm actually taking a break this week to drinking. I'm getting back in shape. I'm trying to get back. I'm getting back into my old regimen and knocking off the summer vacation. The summer vacation.
Yeah, I was gonna have like I said, I was gonna start singing really in earnest today, and then my fake COVID decided to ruin that. So
yeah, this would have been so much of a better show if you actually had COVID.
I know.
You could do the whole thing from your house, and you could have like the whole blanket, and that would have been great. Would have been great.
I'm a warrior. My dad, he's like, Like when I put in the family chat, I'm like, "Hey guys, I don't have COVID." My mom's like, "Oh, that's so great." My sister's like, "Oh, that's so great." My dad goes, "Too bad, because at least you'd get some immunity."
True,
it's right.
True story though. True story. I had this vision of you going in, them saying you had COVID, and then you putting me on the tracing chain, and then me getting calls, and then ruining my whole vacation next week because I hadn't seen you in 3 weeks, but there could be a chance that you gave me COVID. I would have been so. Yeah, I would have been so angry with you.
Yeah, my family started making fun of me, saying that I'm going to be like Chris Cuomo was on CNN when he was broadcasting from his basement when he had COVID.
Why not? Got ratings.
Chris Cuomo, yeah, right. Let's go on to our first guest. I think we should.
Right, because we have 2 guests today. And,
if we have 2 guests, so let's jump into our first one, and then the second will join us. Our first guest is a fantastic singer and a fantastic person, Raehann Bryce-Davis, mezzo-soprano. She was the 2018 George London winner. She sung with LA Opera, Chautauqua Opera, Florida Grand, Opera Theater St. Louis, Michigan Opera Theater, Marilla, and I've had the pleasure of actually sharing stage with Raehann, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, which was fun. But I was talking to her recently, and we just sort of started talking just sort of randomly, and then she had been talking about this project that she was doing, a movie of sorts, and I didn't really know what it was. I knew the title was To the Afflicted, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And then she dropped it on Instagram, and of course it became a overnight sensation. And I wanted to talk to her about that as well. And I think we should take a look at this little ditty right now, because I was just so impressed, and I wonder what the future, if it's going to have an effect in a way on our business, and what it might be. So I'm going to pop this baby on real fast here, and then we'll give it a shot. There we go. And there's Raehann. Welcome to the show, Raehann. What a project that was, huh?
Whew, it was something. It was something.
Well, where did this come from? Tell me all about it.
So it started, well, obviously I was in LA when COVID hit. I had done one performance of Roberto Devereux, and I didn't get my second performance. And after opening night, you always have all this, okay, the next time I do it, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be amazing. And all my family was coming, and there was so much hype about it. And then, everything got canceled about like the day before. So, I went home to Texas, slummed around in my childhood bedroom for a couple months. And then I was like, you know what, I need to do something. I need to do the thing, And so this was my, am I in camera? Yeah. So this was my wanting to do something that just expressed, where I was in the moment. And so I realized that I could create my own second performance. So this was my doing that. I chose, Sada's aria from Roberto Devereux. Why is this so difficult to fit into this little screen?
You were fine. The more you play with it, the more you get.
All right. We're good. We're good. This way. Okay. Yeah. So, it was in the middle of the pandemic. Everybody's freaking out about how are we surviving financially, emotionally. And then George Floyd was killed, and we were dealing with all of these huge, huge issues, which have been around for forever, but, came even more to the forefront. And so I just wanted to find a way to kind of process all of the emotions that I was feeling in the moment. And so thus became To the Afflicted. Of course, it's hard to create music during COVID. A, we're broke. B, there are all these restrictions. My initial vision was to do it at the opera, at Dallas Opera, which looked like it was going to be possible. And then at the end, they were like, yeah, no, it's COVID, boo. So I found a wonderful director that was willing to shoot and help me make it come to fruition via Craigslist. Because totally.
Oh,
this was mad hustle.
That's daring. That's daring.
It looks classy.
For me a Craigslist.
Craigslist. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll all put our resumes on Craigslist now. Why not?
I'm telling you, there's some fabulous people on there. But the thing was, I threw out this ad, and I got so many responses. Huge production crews were like, "I'll shoot your video, only $3,000." And so I was really grateful for John Goff, who worked with me, and it was totally not a correct budget for the skill that this man has. He shoots commercially a lot, like Doritos commercials and all these fancy things. But it was interesting to him because, who's ever shot an opera music video? So he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So he signed on. We couldn't use the Dallas Opera. So a few days before we were gonna shoot, I did a Hail Mary pass and looked on Airbnb.
So wait. So you're filming a music video in COVID. You hire the guy that shoots Dorito videos and a director from Craigslist, and then you went to Airbnb. I don't. Oh my God, were you? I mean, you had to have been paranoid that this wasn't going to come together. But I mean, it came together beautifully. I mean, but it just sounds crazy. Wait, go ahead, keep going. Tell us where you got your makeup artist from now.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I just Googled and Instagram and all. But seriously, because most of my professional life, I haven't worked in DFW. That's where I kind of grew up, but I haven't really worked there. So I don't have a lot of professional connections. So all of my connections were like, But I was really lucky because on Airbnb, this fabulous gentleman named Todd answered. And I just wrote, and I was like, so like, you have this amazing place. It was literally, it's like a castle. It's like a castle on a hill with 22 acres. And it cost $1,300 per night to rent on Airbnb. And I was like, yeah, so that's not going to happen. But maybe if we could just use it for a couple hours, maybe he'll be down, you know? So I shot him a message and I was like, is there any way that like between guests we could maybe, you know, use the space? And he was like, yeah, totally. I was like, I was waiting for my no. And he was like, no, totally. We've had several people shoot here before. And then he started sending me these videos, like 2 Chainz, like this rapper in the living room. You see like all the like girls with their like booty little thongs.
Yes, they definitely were not worried about COVID germs, obviously.
Well, I don't know when they shot that, but
right. I'm sure it's still there.
maybe hanging out. So I was really grateful to all the people that pitched in to make it happen. Esme Wong came all the way from Denton like twice to record. The auditorium where we recorded was where I first went to undergrad, and they let me use that space for free. So literally it looks so beautiful and polished, like thank God, but there was a lot of hustle behind the scenes to make that happen.
Wow, that's great. I mean, if you had realistically, if you stayed in LA and tried to get all this done during that period, it would have never happened.
No.
Right? I mean, being in Texas, I guess, was a blessing at that point because you were able to, film this great video and with a lot of resources, obviously, and you were still able to get into theaters and things like that. Because when did you film it?
Was it either April or May, maybe? I mean, it was still empty. It's just the I'm friends with the people who are head of the music department, and they were going in there anyway to like practice. So I was like, so can we like slide in and, you know, just while nobody's in there, and they were really sweet and they let me do that. So,
wow.
Can you talk about the reaction here? I mean, I saw that you had I saw it and I immediately shared it here. You have your little feature in Opera Wire. Talk to me about the reaction to this thing. Who have you heard from? How has it been? What has it been like?
I mean, it's been so massively amazing. The night before it came out, I was pretty terrified. You know, you never know what people are going to think of it. And I kind of put my heart and soul into it. And it was very personal. Like, it's my own footage. My family members are like making cameos and stuff. And it's, you know, for opera, it's very, it's pushing all the boundaries and stuff. So I didn't know how our people were going to feel about it. But the reaction has been really, really positive. And like, there have been lovely shares from like Opera News Today and Opera Wire and like lots of the blogs and things. But it's been most meaningful because I hear from my friends like how much it moved them, and so many people were saying how emotional they were. And so that's always amazing, you know, because that's why we make art. We make art to move people, to be, I mean, any break that we can get during this time of something beautiful and positive is so essential. So I was really grateful to be able to, at least for, you know, 4 minutes and 57 seconds or whatever, provide like.
But I mean, you were an accomplished singer before this. I mean, sing all over Europe, LA Opera. You know, I read I had to really truncate the resume, or you'd be here all day. So I mean, it's not like the world doesn't really know you, but I mean, I guess everyone needs a little extra, you know, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been really fortunate, especially in Europe. I've been predominantly in Europe. The last 2 years have been my first, like, coming up as like a new Verdi mezzo. So I got to do my first Eboli, and I'm having my first Azucena coming up. So I'm working, and I've been working for a while, but I'm just starting to like peek over the wall into like, the big brave world of being like a leading singer. So
what was your? I'm sorry. What was your fall? What was your fall supposed to look like?
Fall was supposed to start with Azucena at LA Opera. Right now, I'm supposed to be singing Guinevere at Bard Summerscape. And then where were we? Then A Nation of Others at Carnegie. Another Azucena in Germany. Brangena, Tristan and Isolde in Belgium. But those are happening because they're working,
Right,
so
right, sure.
So basically, for the fall at least, only Azucena has been canceled, which makes my life a lot more scary because that was supposed to be my role debut for Azucena, which now my role debut is going to be in Nuremberg with 1 day of rehearsal, like the Germans like to do. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Brian, let me ask you, on your resume, I noticed a glaring omission that you did not put sung with Gideon Dabi. There it is on my site. I just wanted to show everyone just because it's a great picture from our production of Mahagoni, which is a lot of fun.
That's all right. I haven't done that either, so don't worry. Don't let him put you down.
I love it. That was good time.
Do you think, Raehann, that we're going to see more of these kinds of things? Like, I mean, they've done opera movies. They're usually not so great, in my opinion. I think it's just an awkward thing to sing in a style of a naturalistic movie. Some of those movies that they've made, like like the Domingo Carmen movie and some of the older, the Pavarotti Rigolettos, and I mean the singing is great, and the production, sure, but I think it doesn't lend itself well to the medium. I mean, in my opinion, some people love them, I know. But do you think we'll start to see more of these almost like MTV style videos? Do you think companies will start doing something like this?
I mean, I hope so. And the good thing is, it's not going to be the companies that make it. It's going to be the singers that make them. All of a sudden we have so much more power, than we used to. Especially what do you think?
But we haven't gone back to work yet, so we don't know. Yeah.
True. But I think so, and I hope so, just because it's easier for outsiders to connect with something that looks natural. I think the reason that I go to the opera house is for this. There's nothing like sitting in a dark space and these voices being in the space with these amazing voices that can just shake you to your core, and you have an intimate experience that way. The way that things are right now, you can't have that experience. So we have to stimulate in a different way. And I think this is one of the only ways that we can do that. Not necessarily a music video. I think there's so many different aspects of ways of creating. I saw Lucia Lucas made this like Wagner, I think it was a Goethe Dämmerung, just like her and her wife at home, but they shot this whole like Act 2 of Goethe Dämmerung through with their phones. Like, that's amazing. It's just amazing. And that's on our creativity and figuring out ways to stay relevant and stay present, because our art form is amazing. And when people see it, they're like, whoa, so we have to get people over the fear and the disconnect. I think this is
absolutely. No. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I think that's a great time to bring in our next guest also to talk about this kind of thing. What do you think, Stephen? I think we should.
Absolutely. But before we go on, I have to just say the one thing I liked about your video was when you did it, it seemed like it was your idea. You incorporated a lot of things that were really close to your heart, and a lot of things that obviously are on your mind. What you mean, and in the past, opera singers have done videos like this, but they've done it mostly with their record labels, and they've done it in a way that makes it unorganic. Does that make sense? And so when you read it, when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is nice. It's a cool idea, but it doesn't really have that extra touching effect, which your video does. And I think it's because you did it your way and you self-produced it. And I think if we go in that direction and these videos begin to happen more, that has to happen, as opposed to going in and having people direct it and say, well, this is our idea how we're going to video your track. And I think you're doing it the right way, and it's great.
Very good.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. So now I'd like to also add to the motley crew here, Larry Adelson. He's the founder of American Lyric Theater. He's the general and artistic director of Opera Saratoga and a very accomplished stage director as well. Wolf Trap Opera, Fort Worth Opera, Hawaii Opera Theater, Michigan Opera Theater, and of course New York City Opera. I'd like to welcome to the show a buddy of mine, the great Larry Adelson. Oh wait, where's his pic? Where's his wonderful face? There it is. There he is. Hi Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to hear you don't have COVID.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not. We would have had so many more ratings if that happened.
Yeah, it would have been a more interesting show. I suppose.
We could have drugged this out over a few shows. You know.
How are you feeling now? Is it going? Any lingering effects? I should have added, by the way, a tornado dodger to your resume, Larry.
It was south of me. So yeah.
Wait! Before you go on, what tornado? Tell us the story of dodging.
No, it's nothing. It's actually pretty minor considering what's going on and like just happened in Louisiana and stuff. But I was back in New York City for the first time in actually 6 months. I split my time between Manhattan and Saratoga Springs, and we were driving up yesterday. Yeah, through some pretty lousy weather. On Saturday through some pretty lousy weather, and got to the house. Turned on the TV, turned on the news, and all of a sudden there was a tornado warning on. And so I took the dog and I told my partner, we're going downstairs, it's a tornado warning. And a couple tornadoes touched down just south of Saratoga. Nothing, hugely. Yeah, I mean, you think you see what's happening down south. But
when I first met Gideon, we were doing Carmen in the Dallas Opera. And I had a doctor's appointment somewhere out by like Love Field, and I'm driving home. I'm driving back. Supposed to go to rehearsal, so I'm driving back. But the weather starts to get really bad, and the rain comes pouring down. I can't see in front of me, so I pull over into a little parking lot for a couple minutes just for it to settle down. However, it got worse, and a tornado formed. Right. So, but I'm not in the eye of the tornado. I'm like on the outside of it. But the wind is picking up. The hail is banging onto the car. The car starts shaking like this. The windows are going like this. I call my wife. I'm panicked. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. You're never going to talk to me again. And then I get a call from the company, and they go, "Are you almost here? Are you? You're late for rehearsal." And I'm like, "I'm in the middle of a tornado." Okay. Well, do you think you're going to make it? And I'm like, "I'm in a tornado." Scariest thing in my life.
Texas is crazy for tornadoes. And you made your debut at Fort Worth, right, Stephen?
I did.
So I had my one of my most important productions, I think, was at Fort Worth Opera. I did Hydrogen Jukebox by Philip Glass. And on the night of the premiere, we were sitting in the theater. 4 minutes into the show, all the lights come on. And I'm, of course, it's the premiere. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like freaking out. And there was a tornado warning, and we all had to evacuate into the basement of the theater. So the cast is there and the audience is there. And we had to wait it out for an hour until we could go back. And so everyone's there in costume and makeup and everything, chatting with the audience. So it didn't hit us, so we're fortunate. But I think Texas and tornadoes are sort of permanently associated in my mind because of that.
Absolutely. Don't worry, Raehann. You'll be okay. Don't worry.
I just had that experience when I was singing in Tulsa. My buddy Reese is he's a Kansan, so he's used to all these tornado things. I'm not, I'm from around here my whole life, and there's just, I looked at the map, and it's just one night after rehearsal, and it's just blood red everywhere. The weather map looks, the radar, and it's like tornado. I don't remember it was the worst one. Warning, I guess, means it's touched down, right? Watch means it's coming. I don't remember how it works exactly. And he's just sitting there, with a beer. I'm like, Reese, there's a tornado coming. He goes, yeah, no, it's cool. I'm like, well, what do you mean it's cool? He's like, no, it's fine. We have a basement, right? I'm like, no, this house doesn't have a basement. He goes, oh, that's cool. So I'll go into the bathtub And you could just, like, if you're right near the toilet by the bathtub, that's cool too. You'll just chill there. Like, we're going to hide in the bathroom. He goes, yeah, only like 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours tops. Almost kidding. Anyway.
I don't know. He gets the tub, and you have to like change.
Yeah, I have to go right
30,
next to
30 minutes, 2 hours tops.
I have to like get to clutch the basin there, while the tornadoes go on. Larry, we've had a few. We had Ian Dare, we had Opera San Antonio, a few people. Some of them are coming back now, right? I know San Antonio's desperate. Texas has a lot of places that they're able to come back slightly. What is it like? You run 2 companies in New York now. What is that challenge like? You run 2 big companies in New York. What is that challenge? Our mayor is not opening anything up. Our governor's a little more forgiving. What's going on? Talk to us about that.
Well, I have to say I'm restrictions in place. I'm really glad that they're being cautious in New York. ALT is very different than Opera Saratoga. ALT is a service organization, serves composers and librettists, and we're not a producing company. So we haven't been impacted at ALT quite the same way as Opera Saratoga. So the developmental work we're doing with composers and librettists on new operas has really been continuing. It's been remote, of course, but we've been able to keep all those programs, moving forward. Opera Saratoga, primarily a summer festival, plus our community programs. And of course, we canceled the summer like everybody else and have been thinking about how we're going to sort of gear back into in-person programs. But again, because the core of our programs doesn't really happen until the summer again, we're really thinking more long-term. I really feel for my colleagues and friends who are trying to plan for, can they come back this fall or can they come back in the spring? So much of that planning right now is kind of looking in a crystal ball and trying to imagine, what's going to be possible. But right now, I think we're really focused on how we can stay present with the community and how we can stay engaged, because as soon as you start to lose that interaction with folks, it becomes really challenging. And I love that that so many artists are creating their own content, like Raehann. I think that's really, really critical. In fact, I haven't seen your video yet. I have to say, just seeing that glimpse of it, I was like, I've got to watch this whole thing. But what I've seen online from artists that are creating their own content has generally been much more interesting and compelling than what companies have been creating. And as a general director, I can say my company has been creating content, and we've been working with our young artists and trying to keep them engaged and stuff. But really seeing that artists are wanting to make and that it's coming from themselves. And I think, Stephen, you were saying this, it's not like the vision of this team that is trying to impose something on the artists. It's just more genuine and it's really exciting. And I'm hoping that's actually going to influence the way companies are thinking about how to interact with artists when it comes to content creation. Not simply saying, I'm the general director, I have this idea, let's do this, but you're an artist I really love, like, what could we do together? How can we create this together? Because I think the net result's going to be much, much more interesting.
Larry, I like what you said about staying current with the community, because we've talked about this on our show before. And I really think that, I hope companies are taking this time to find ways to be community involved, more community involved. And I think that's a big problem right now. Like when a company like this is closed and they need funding from the different governments, and they need funding from the city, and they need funding from donors, I think it would be easier for them to keep the company thriving and going in this period if they were more community involved. If it has a place with the community and it shows that being there makes a difference and it helps those in that area, I mean, it would be so much easier to stay alive and get people to want you to stay alive, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I often have said, when I do my, my funder dinners and things like that, why does Opera Saratoga exist? And, the typical answer is, well, to produce opera. And I actually don't think that's the answer at all. The answer is to serve the community. What we do is produce opera and related programs, but why we're here is to serve the community. So for a summer festival, it's particularly challenging because the core of activity, or sort of the culmination of activity, takes place in an 8 to 12 week period. And maintaining presence and maintaining relevance and value to the community year round is really critical. So, at Opera Saratoga, we have a really robust education program where historically we've gone out into the schools and it reaches almost 20,000 kids. But this year we don't expect to be able to go out into the schools, because of coronavirus. So that entire program is being transitioned to a virtual program where we're providing curriculum, video, digital content for teachers to support teachers. And there we add value to the community. We were about to launch a new program to provide music therapy to Alzheimer's patients when COVID hit. That's been delayed, but that's a really important new initiative that we're launching. We're partnering with Songs by Heart out of Chicago, and we're the only opera company in the country actually that has a full-time program to do music therapy in memory care centers in the region. And again, that just sort of shows what the power of music is to people who might not like to sit in a dark theater and get screamed at in Italian for 3 hours, right? Because that is something we all love and we feel passionate about. But to really have a long and firm anchor into the community, you have to appeal to more than just.
Did we lose Larry? Oh, there.
You there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I froze there for a minute. Back.
Yeah, we got you. You said you had to appeal to more than what? And then we lost you.
More than just the converter, more than just the opera lovers, and I think that's the key. And yes, there's lots of programming you can do to bring people into opera and to introduce them to opera, whether that's digital or in-person programming. But there is so much that an opera company can do in the community that has nothing to do with the opera house. And I think that's really where value is added.
Talk to us a little bit, Larry. I wanted to ask you about this company that I've had the real pleasure of singing with. I wanted to talk to you about your company here, this American Lyric Theater. You gave it. You said it was something else. You said it's not a company. You said I don't remember how you described it. But
it's a service organization.
Service organization. That's what it was. I know that many of the operas that you have helped to cultivate have gone on to be produced by major houses. I've been blessed to have done one of those in Steel of Pencil for me with Opera Colorado. So talk to me about this. Like, this is your baby. Like, you really built this from the ground up. What inspired you to do that? And what is the real mission behind that?
Sure. Well, I was a singer, a tenor with no high notes, but I went through the young artist, route and saw the, sort of that trajectory and the opportunities to learn, through the young artist programs. And when I moved into directing, I was at Glimmerglass Opera, actually working on Little Women, and got to know Mark Adamo, and we were having a drink and just talking about how does one become an opera composer or librettist. And really, so the light bulb moment was there were all these young artist programs to provide opportunities for singers, but there's nothing like that for composers and librettists. And there's actually no program still, almost 20 years after this first conversation I had with Mark, there's no university or conservatory that has a degree specifically in opera writing. And I said to him, that sounds like something I might want to start. That's, or something I'd love to be involved with. And he, kind of fatefully said, well, if you ever do, give me a call. And about 4 years later, I called him. I had gone back to grad school to do my degree in arts administration. I kind of knew that I wanted to, be a general director at some point in the future or to have a leadership role in opera. I wasn't quite sure what shape. And during my graduate degree, I used my thesis to kind of create a strategic plan for what would become American Lyric Theater. And ALT is now home to the only full-time multi-year program to train emerging opera composers, librettists, and dramaturgs in the country. And it's a multi-year program that has a really phenomenal faculty. The founding faculty was Mark Adamo, Corey Edelson, the dramaturg, Daniel Catan, and Anthony Davis. And this program has grown from what originally was a 5-month program to a 2 to 3 year residency that provides a significant living stipend, commissions, has had over 45 artists go through the program, has works now being produced at companies, as you said, all over the country, LA Opera, Houston Grand Opera, Fort Worth Opera. There's pieces being written for the Met by alumni right now. And it's been really exciting to see that by focusing on training writers, we're able to influence what is actually being done on the stage.
Wow. how does one, I mean, I don't mean to ask too much about how the sausage is made, but there's obviously an immediate understanding as to why one becomes a donor, for example, for the Met or for a local opera company that he or she loves. How does one get involved? Who are you really appealing to in that sort of respect? Like who's the person who says, I mean, I think it's awesome. It gives work for singers. You get some new awesome works. So who are the people out there saying, oh my God, this is what I need to help invest in?
It's a great question. We don't have the same sort of earned income stream from ticket sales because we don't produce a season. I mean, we do readings, which you've been involved in, and but that's a fraction of our budget. We get the most significant portion of our income from foundations. The Andrew W. Mellon Foundation is our largest institutional funder. The NEA is a very major funder of ours, and we also get very, very strong state and city funding in New York City. But from individuals, it's because we don't have a season, we don't have that sort of traditional trajectory of going from a ticket buyer to a subscriber, and then maybe you become the ladder of the donor ladder. I think it's actually somewhat similar to those who support young artist singers. They're interested in investing in the future, right? They're interested in investing in talented people and helping them realize that talent. And so, when you invest in ALT, you are investing in the future of opera from the perspective of what is going to be put on stage in terms of the repertoire, as when you're investing in a young artist program for singers, you're investing in those singers. And that's sort of the way that we approach it. I mean, a commission underwriter might want to support a specific team on a specific project. When we did JFK with Fort Worth Opera, that was a collaboration. Of course, they were key underwriters. Or when we did The Long Walk, which was at Opera Saratoga and Utah Opera, again, there were key people who were interested in the subject matter of an opera. That's often an entree. We also have a really major new initiative that we're launching called the Opera Writers Diversity and Representation Initiative to increase the number of BIPOC composers and librettists in the field. And so that's attracting a lot of interest, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, so that we're really diversifying who's being trained and ultimately who's writing, and then what works are being put onto the stage, since this is a predominantly white art form, as we all know, and needs to change really, really fast. But that doesn't change if we don't invest at the ground level, right? It's not going to happen if we don't invest in the writers, if we don't invest in the singers. And so that's a big part of where we speak to funders and really help them understand where that investment is. It's not a short-term investment; it's a long-term investment.
I think if I can butt in. I'm one of the immediate beneficiaries of ALT. This fall, I get to produce a opera murder club with Lila Palmer.
Yes, she told me yes. And
what is
Lila's?
She Tamar Kali and I have created this opera murder club that is about listening to the great melodies that we have in opera in a new way, and exposing the kind of the obsession that we have in opera about murdering women and the violence against women that is so prevalent in the art form. And so I appreciated so much what you were saying about how hiring more diverse creators is also a way to connect to the community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes comes from George C. Wolfe, who was the leader of the public theater for many years. And he always talks about wanting the public theater, or talked about, he's no longer there, talked about the public theater looking like a subway stop in New York City. Having that sort of diversity, not only on stage, but backstage at the board level, the staff level. Well, there isn't an opera company in this country that looks like a subway stop in New York City, unless you're talking about East 86th Street, right? I mean, we are the whitest art form around, and that's just that's not what we are as a country. That's just not interesting for the future, and so I just am so excited. I forgot that Lila told me she was working on this project with you, and she's amazing, as you know, a brilliant librettist who you are all going to hear a lot about. She's actually working on 2 commissions for us at ALT right now, and it's great. And also, this goes back to what I was saying, Raehann, about artist-driven projects. right? Because this is something that was a passion project of yours, if I remember right. Exactly. So this wasn't some company saying, we have this idea, you need to fit into this box, and I love it. And this is exactly what we need more of, is artists really saying, this is an idea, listen to me. And I guess as a general director of a producing company as well, I'm hungry to hear from artists who have these exciting ideas, because no general director, no matter how smart they think they are, has all the good ideas. We want to be able to collaborate with as many artists as possible.
Wow. Larry, are you just postponing Saratoga the same season to next year? That's what some people are doing. Are you just sort of displacing it?
Not quite. That was originally the plan. This season we were supposed to do Sky on Swings, the opera by Limbit Beecher and Hannah Moscovich. We were doing Pirates of Penzance and Madame Butterfly, directed by a Japanese theater director. I was really excited by that. Our theater is an old theater, a historic theater located in Spa State Park, and we do not believe that it is going to be viable to produce at full scale in the theater because of the HVAC systems. For next, we're really planning a season that is as COVID-able. Hoping that we can, doing whatever we can to ensure that we have a summer festival. So Pirates of Penzance and Sky on Swings are actually going to be moved to 2022 is what the plan is right now. And then 2021, we have not announced our rep for yet. We're meeting at the board level to look at the budget. Budget's contracting next year, as it is everywhere. But to make sure that we can do some exciting programming. Next year is actually the 60th anniversary of the company as well. So it's important that we are able to do something that is compelling and exciting.
Are you talking about the heating and ventilation system?
Yeah. So this is, when I said, I want to be a general director when I grow up, I was like, oh yeah, I thought I'd be looking at schematics of HVAC systems. Like that's exactly what I thought my future was going to be all about, right? No, because this is an issue now. This is an airborne a disease that's transmitted airborne, and the theater is old. It is a great place to sing in. Acoustically, singers love it. The audience loves it. It's about a 500-seat theater, intimate space, but the HVAC system is going to need some considerable changes, and it's owned by the state. And that's not going to happen in the next 8 to 10 months because the state has other financial priorities than updating the HVAC system in a theater. That's not really their focus right now, and the budgets are, are being allocated elsewhere. So I expect that most of what we'll do will actually be outdoors next summer. I haven't actually said that publicly yet, but I don't think it's going to be a surprise to many people. And for me, that's exciting because Saratoga Springs is gorgeous in the summer. We have a lot of really beautiful historic and natural venues in the area and the region. And so we're sort of exploring how we can leverage those as part of our repertoire planning for next summer. Bottom line is I want to get people back to work. Because I not only want to get our audiences back connected, but I'll tell you, the most painful thing I've had to do in my career is call artists and say, we have to cancel your contracts and you're only getting a portion of your fee. I mean, at least we were able to do something, but calling, hundreds of people and saying you're going to be out of work and then seeing them out of work on and on. I mean, I feel for everybody that it's been, I think everyone thought, maybe this will be 2 or 3 months at first, and you're all going through this as singers, the three of you, it puts a knot in my stomach because we want to get everyone back to work. And that's going to be a real challenge to be able to gear up. It's not going to be full scale in the next 12 months. It's going to take time, and it's tough. But that's our job. Essentially, as a company leader, it's my job to get the company going and to get people back to work.
What was Larry? What was the piece you mentioned about? Am I imagining things? Did you mention something to do with Alzheimer's? Was there a piece that you mentioned that?
Well, so Sky on Swings by Limbit Beecher and Hannah Moscovich, it premiered at Opera Philadelphia a couple of years ago, and it's an incredibly powerful piece. We were going to do that this summer, and in tandem with that, launch our music therapy program in memory centers. And It's a tough piece. I mean, it's an emotionally tough piece. My father has early stages of Alzheimer's disease, and I went to this piece thinking, "Oh God, how are they going to represent Alzheimer's in an opera? You know, is this going to be maudlin?" And I sat in that audience, and I felt like I had been hit by a truck at the end of the piece. I just sat there stunned. It was so powerful. And we always do a contemporary piece every year, and that's part of the mandate. We always do something 21st century. And I reached out to Lembit and asked if he would let me direct a new production. And I feel very strongly about bringing the piece to this community. I think it will really resonate with a lot of people here. And I think that's, you were talking about, social relevance in opera and how we connect to that. And, there are so many ways that opera really can connect with topics that are close to people, that it's not this antique, archaic, distant art form that so many people perceive it as. And so I think that, as we look at our repertoire planning, we're always trying to find those points of connectivity with the communities that we serve.
Yeah, I mean, it just was sort of a strange coincidence, because some of the things we do on the show also, we cover news that we like, that we think is fun or interesting, and try not to find there's enough people covering the sad stuff. There's enough people covering the stuff. And it happened, two of the stories that I happened to highlight had to do with Alzheimer's, actually. And one of them is this story that we have, that let me get to that. In a new study, it's thankfully it's on the decline. It seems in general that Alzheimer's is on the decline. It's down about 13% in general. So hopefully, the more treatments we have, and we can figure out what's going on with this, and get some more research. So I didn't know this piece, so that's fun. Yeah. But well, not really fun, but you know what I mean. It's fun that you get to do that to a piece like that.
So there's a great mezzo role, Raehann. Marietta Simpson created the role. She was actually supposed to come do it for us. But, what's interesting about the piece, it was actually written for two older singers. It was written for Marietta and for Flicka, and who sang in the premiere. Suzanne Menser was supposed to come sing it with us, with Marietta. And it's so fascinating to have these roles that were written to be sung by older singers, because of what having a young artist play somebody with Alzheimer's disease, like, that's ridiculous, right? So yeah. But the poignancy of the piece, because of the way it was written, and it was written for these artists at the stage of their careers as well, and also with their life experience, is part of what makes it such a special piece.
Raehann,
so you can't sing it yet, Raehann. You have to get older before you get there.
I look forward.
But it's there for you down the road,
Yes. Stephen, shall we move on?
We shall. Okay.
All right. Well, so we do have to cover something that's important this week, and that is that a beloved actor, Mr. Chadwick Boseman, passed away. The Black Panther himself, he passed away. I know he was somebody. What a universally liked personality, universally liked actor, a well-respected both from the elite snobs and down to the popcorn-going audience. And think of the important roles that he did. Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall. He played virtually every Black superhero, real and imagined, that there could be, and he did it all. Stephen, the Black Panther.
It's funny. Everyone talks about the Black Panther, and it was great. He was great in that. But yeah. I loved him the most in 42. I have to tell you. Yeah. When I saw it in the movie theater, it was effective. He was so good. Since then I've seen that movie, I don't know, I'd say 7 or 8 times. And I'm kind of disappointed. Like, after he passed away, they didn't put it on Netflix or anything like that, because I want to see it again. But he was great in that. And people talk about it, but they always talk about it in Black Panther, which he was great.
Yes.
But he was a true, he really was Jackie Robinson in that movie. It was great. He was wonderful in that.
Raehann, what do you think?
It's devastating. My sister is a doctor, and she was saying that this summer, so many people are also reading How to Be an Anti-Racist writer of that, also was diagnosed with colon cancer very young. And so it seems that there's a new upwards tick in colon cancer for young Black men. And she was
This is Ibram
about,
Kendi, you mean?
what was that, sorry?
Ibram Kendi, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, it's just another way how race rears its ugly head in terms of medical research. You know, that the statistics that we currently have are not true to the situation that we see happening in the Black community. And so, you know, just another way of how we need to grow as a country and have our research and our art reflect everyone. It's a tragedy to have lost Chadwick Boseman, but he was, as you all said, such a hero who influenced so many people. You know, the photos that you see now of now that we know that he himself was battling cancer and he was there visiting all these kids and making other people's lives better and filming insane movies while he was suffering himself. It's just human, and he was a true hero.
All right.
No, I think Raehann just hit it for me. I mean, a wonderful actor. I mean, people mostly know him, you know, of course, from Black Panther, but just a truly wonderful actor, but so inspiring, especially knowing what he and how much of a source of inspiration he was to so many people when he himself was going through such an extraordinarily difficult physical process for himself. And we all know what the physical toll of production schedule in opera is like. Well, film is, you know, another animal altogether, you know, and it's really kind of unbelievable that he was going through what he was living through, and still such a light and such a source of inspiration to so many people.
You talk about film production being grueling. I remember when all the commentary, you know, director's commentary on DVD first started coming out. I watched a few of my favorite movies, and I remember watching one of my favorite horror movies, Army of Darkness, a cute little goofy film. And the actor giving the commentary said, yeah, I can always tell when in production this was filmed by how thin I am, by how much thinner I get as the production goes on. You know, you learn kind of like weird, quirky things. We'll do one more not so great story, and then we'll get on to a little bit goofier stuff. But I'd love to hear your guys' take on this. And that is, of course, the news that Cammy is no longer. That's right. This is a seismic event in the world of classical music. Larry, in particular, I really want to know what you think about this.
Well, I was stunned. I mean, I was just shocked when I saw that over the weekend. I remember when Cammy Hall closed down in New York City, and that was a big deal at the time. But this is just beyond. I think it shows how extraordinary the long-term impact of the pandemic is going to be, and what a seismic shift is happening in our industry right now. I mean, I feel I have friends who work at Cammy, and I have friends who are on the roster at Cammy, you know, and it's just I know I was just stunned. As you know, I just couldn't. You know, I am expecting still there to be company closures. I think that's inevitable. And I know, I mean, I'm on Anna Darcheletta's roster, and I know that, you know, she has had real challenges with ADA artists, and that I know Alex Fletcher, and you know that all of my colleagues and friends who are in artist management have been sort of trying to navigate this, because of course if all the artists are out of work, then all the, you know, the managers aren't getting paid, you know, so there is that domino effect, right? Mm-hmm. But Cammy seemed like this behemoth that was just kind of not going to go anywhere ever, you know. And if Cammy can fall, anyone can fall, I think, is kind of the big like takeaway at this point. Do you think it's bigger ripples than 2008? They're about the same. No, I think it's definitely bigger ripples than 2008. Yeah, but I think, you know, I think there are also some positive things happening as a result of it. I think artists are feeling empowered, and so we're talking about that. And I think that's really positive, and I think that is going to continue once we get through this. But I think that this isn't going to be a short recovery. And a lot's going to be influenced. I don't want to get too political, but it's going to be influenced by what happens in November. And just because what's happening in the U.S. right now is different than what's happening in the rest of the world, and it's making our jobs harder. And the fact that our industry is not really respected in the way it is in other countries also makes this a real uphill battle.
Speaking of respect, Raehann, when you go to Vienna and do your big thing that you're going to do, don't expect to hear anyone cheer too loudly, because that's right, they have banned bravos because of the pandemic. As one of the requirements, you cannot yell bravo. What do you think?
That's crazy.
Are they all going like this now? Is it the whole audience going?
I assume you can still clap, but maybe with gloves. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to let it down. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well,
Steven,
I have no idea. I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, but I can't even comment on it. It's just so crazy. I mean, what are you going to tell like a theater full of people? You can't do that. If one breaks the rules, you're going to come in with your little flashlight, running through like the usher running through, like escort you out of the place. I don't get it. I mean, if you're there already, you've had people singing there. Most likely, you're talking to your neighbor next to you. I don't get it. I don't. It's just one of these. I think it's one of these things that somebody wrote with too much time on their hands.
Well, it could be. I mean,
or it's written by a politician that doesn't know anything about music and
Yes. One of the things that I joke about when I see this production is, they won't be cheering bravo. It sounds like one of my usual performances. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, moving on. Moving on, though. The good news is, will you say something, Stephen?
No.
He was just agreeing with you.
It's all right. However, the good news is that Taiwan put on a massive turandot. 1,800 people in the audience, 260 artists. I guess they're feeling really good about things over there in Taiwan, because that is cool. I mean, that's the biggest audience I've heard. How big? We had when we had Fabiano last week. How big was wasn't the Madrid opera only at 40% capacity or something?
Yeah, I think they had over 27 performances. I think they had maybe 20,000 plus people.
But in 27 performances. 27
performances. But I have to say, that's a great example of them figuring it out. They figured out how to do it. No one caught COVID. No, not one person in the audience, one person on stage, one person in the orchestra, one person in the chorus. Nobody caught the virus. So, I mean, there are ways. I keep saying there are ways. And with this, going back to Cami for a minute, it just shows that, Cami was such an American-based company, and it shows that, how other countries handle the arts and help them in a crisis like this, and how culture and the arts in the United States seems to be failing. I mean, all the other opera houses in Europe are either opening, making progress, or able to open because they're not financially depleted from this virus. And it just seems like the American companies are having a much harder time, and it's mostly because we don't have the same respect for. Shouldn't say we don't have respect for culture in terms of people, but I'm talking about in our sense of government. They don't have that same respect in culture that other countries do.
Yeah.
You mentioned
the funding structures are obviously different as well, right? I mean,
they're not too much though. As we talked about last week, when we talked with Michael about this with Madrid, I think
was it only like 20%?
It was only like 20% funding from the government to the opera house. The rest is by corporate sponsors and by individual donors.
Yeah,
but in many, I mean that's true in terms of operating support. But you have to remember that a lot of the actual physical plants, the facilities, are either owned or, in some cases, subsidized by government. That's separate from operating support, right?
Some of them are. But, I mean, some of the American companies though own their theaters. Some of them.
But that's actually the companies that have their own physical plants, their own theaters, or their own or really high fixed expenses are the ones that are having the biggest challenges with coronavirus. Right, some of the smaller, more nimble companies actually are not as impacted because they don't have those fixed cost structures. So that's part of the challenge too.
Well, speaking of the coronavirus challenges, one of the big challenges, of course, is that your test is positive, but maybe it shouldn't be. Now, this was a conversation that I had. This was a big story that came out in the New York Times. This particular link that I have is not the New York Times story, but it originated there. And that is that the test is in some ways overly sensitive. It can detect such a small and non-contagious and non-infectious amount that you still get a positive test, from what I understand. And my doctor explained to me that it's because we can live, as he says, we can live with false positives. Because what happens? You get a false positive, you're like, uh-oh, you hide in your house for 2 weeks, and that's the end of the story. Nobody else gets sick, but a false negative, now you have a different problem. Because then the person thinks he's fine, and he goes out to the bars, and and then you have a much different problem. But it's also, so we probably need a lot more and more calibrated testing, apparently, if we're going to really hunker down on this thing, because apparently the test is okay.
Well, I mean, that's the problem that we have with viruses anyway, right? Don't we have the same problems with HIV and other viruses with testing? I mean, you were getting a lot of false positives, especially with or false negatives with HIV. So until they actually got a system of testing that really worked, and we're now talking about we've known, or however, who knows, we've known, the public anyway, since March probably. So I mean, testing I think is going to be wonky until they can really figure out what's going on. I mean, how many people have died and they still can't figure out the main cause? It's the whole thing is just insane.
Fakakta. It's a good word. Fakakta, I think, is a really good word for it. But as far as one of our goofy stories of the week, the United Kingdom has proposed a law to say that if you're a celebrity and you Photoshop your picture and put it on Instagram and do not disclose that it is Photoshopped, well, that's really bad. That could be actually, well, thank you, Big Brother All-Stars ad. That would be.
I was like, illegal. I don't know who any of those people are.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are either. Yeah, that's right. You can. I'm not going to say you get arrested, but you could probably face a fine. It's bad news. Raehann, are all of your pictures now going to be illegal?
Well, hopefully they don't catch me. Fortunately, I'm in America. I don't have any UK contracts coming up.
UK has some weird speech laws too. Let me tell you, they have some weird speech.
Does that mean like they're going to start banning like Samsung phones and everything that have like that beauty face option? I mean, because technically, you're photoshopped it at that point. I guess every photo you post, then you have to cite I've photoshopped this. Is the
I think maybe there's a certain threshold. My brother's a photographer, and he always laughs when people like post a picture on their iPhones and they write no filter. He's like, you mean except for the one your camera actually has? You know what I mean? It's like,
how many Kardashians are going to actually admit that they photoshopped photos on their YouTube profile?
That's funny you mentioned that because Chloe, yes, I got that one right. Chloe was one of the big examples that they used because she recently put out this photo where she was virtually unrecognizable, and people got all worked up about it and decided that was bad news.
Right there shows the problems we have with our country, that people get worked up over Khloe Kardashian's posts.
Can you imagine? Like, how good is your life that you get to actually get worked up about something like that?
Man.
Everything going on. Anyway, I want to thank very much our guest. Thank you so much, Larry Adelson, for coming on. You can check out his amazing company, altnyc.org, American Lyric Theater and Opera Saratoga, of course. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Raehann.
Thank you.
Best of luck to both of you. Best of luck, Raehann, with your amazing video. To the Afflicted, what is your website, Raehann?
It's Raehann.com.
Raehann.com. What's that?
Can we drop links to both to all of their sites?
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
the chat?
I'll be putting both of those. I'll be putting both of those into the chat as well. Anything you guys want to add, Larry, Raehann? Anything you want to add to the fun?
My Instagram handle, because that's different and that's where most of the action is. So it's RaeBD. RaeBD.
So check out most of the action. Go to her Instagrams.
Yeah, that's right. All right, I couldn't find your Instagram, so I guess the UK won't be coming after you anytime soon.
Sorry, you're talking to me?
Yes, I said I couldn't find your Instagram. So
I don't have a personal Instagram. There's an Instagram for ALT and for Opera Saratoga, but no personal Instagram. I might create one for my dog, but
good for you. Good. My wife created one for our dog recently, so it's people are doing it. People are doing it.
I have to manage, social media for 2 companies. Oh, how cool!
She needs her own Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh wait. We have time. We got a new puppy.
Steven.
You got a new puppy yesterday?
I'm going to text my wife to bring in the puppy.
Oh, that's a new one. We have a new puppy, and then in the meantime, I'm going to put Raeann's website here if I didn't already.
Stephen, what kind of puppy did you get?
We got a Shorkie. We've had a terrible experience with dogs this summer. It hasn't been a good summer for pets, and we recently got Coco. In right outside of Niagara Falls in where was it called? Perry, New York.
Mm-hmm. So cute.
There you go. Amazing. I like how you hold it like it's like a goblet.
Because she only weighs 2 pounds.
Oh my god.
So she's extremely. Actually, our cat's really small, and now our cat feels like she weighs 1,000,000 pounds next to her.
Yeah.
Excellent. Related.
Oh my god! Yeah, the same coloring. Look at that.
Yeah. It's like how much does he weigh? She weigh, Raehann?
Oh, too much. She's 23 pounds, and yeah. Which is lovely which is fine in the States, but all the airplane laws get crazy in Europe. So.
I know. We used to take our dog Pebbles to Europe a lot, and he's been on stage at the in Madrid. He's been on stage everywhere in Paris. He's been there. He loves it. Well, he didn't love it. He passed away this summer, but it was hard. We ended up getting a emotional support certificate, and you're able to get some leeway with that. But since then they've changed the laws a lot, and they've also said that your dog cannot travel on the plane if the flight is more than 8 hours. I think it is now. Yeah. So you now have
some airlines. Yeah.
Right. So you have to find the closest airport with the less time, right? So we would have to find all these airports nearby and it's just become such a hassle.
I know the rules very well.
Yes. Well, my dog is 95 pounds, so that's a bit of a different challenge bringing him on a plane, which I will do. But anyway, for Larry Adelson, for Raehann Bryce-Davis, for Stephen Costello, of course, and for myself, thank you, everyone. We'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel next week, Monday, 6 p.m.
Next week.
Thank you, everyone.